Awesome. We are live. And again, we are streaming to YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch. So, welcome all.
Hi, Becky. How are you
I'm
tonight?
good. How about you? Other than let me mute that.
What you just said, my alarm just went off like right before we went. She goes, "Do you have an alarm set for?" I was like, "Yes, I have alarm set for all kinds of stuff."
That is the BNC community reminding to make the reservation for or RSVP for the nutrition meeting that comes up after this. So,
Yes.
but
Oh, did you see we have a issue with Rumble live right now?
I did, and I was attempting at fixing that, but
Well, I'll talk for a minute
it'll
while you fix. How's that?
it'll resolve, I guess. I don't know.
I don't
That's what it
know.
says. We'll keep trying and let you know if it resolves. So I guess
No.
it's at least on YouTube and Twitch. So we're good. We'll go with it.
So I have to tell everyone. So, Becky, you, my dear, did a post
I did.
on Facebook and Instagram. And I said, this would be a great topic tonight. And so I'm going to prod her along here and let her just kind of jump right in. And why did you post what you posted this weekend?
Yeah. So for those that maybe don't follow us on YouTube or on Instagram, so this was the picture that I posted. So this picture it's on my left. Hopefully it's on your left too. But anyway, the before picture was actually our family pictures, and we took those back in 2018, 2017. Man, time flies, right? The thing with this picture that I loved these family pictures, right? It was our whole family, my siblings, my mother. I love the concept of the pictures. But what you don't see are the double layers of Spanx and a waist trainer to end up and try to suck my body in to end up and fit into this shirt. We had, the Husker theme, and so I was like scrunched into this. I was a box. I mean, it was at one point, and I say one point because I stopped weighing myself. I know I was at the highest, and that was well over 200 pounds. Now, throughout what you see, obviously, is the weight side, but what you don't see is what was going on in the inside. And that was pre diabetic. My dad was a brittle type 2 diabetic, so I was headed there. You don't see the digestive issues that I had going on. I had IBS, hormonal, because at this point I had already had my hysterectomy. So I had, weight issues from hormones as well, but HRT made me sick. I was on levothyroxine for thyroid issues, autoimmune, Hashimoto's, cardiac issues, asthma issues. I mean, just from the weight alone was causing shortness of breath and stuff. But also the emotional side, right? My emotional health, even though there's a smile on my face, it reminds me of a commercial, where they're holding the little smile sign, because that was a smile put on for pictures. That was not truly what I was feeling. But after these pictures, once I got them back, that's why I had to stop and think on the ear. Once we got these pictures back, I knew that I had to take things into my own hands. I obviously was not going down the right path. That's when I started to go carnivore, or started to look into keto. Keto was working, but then I fell off the keto wagon with processed keto foods. So, they slapped the label on and called it keto, and I was consuming it. I then started carnivore. high fat carnivore to be exact. Well, let me backtrack. I did start carnivore. I was eating all, the steaks I could eat and making myself full. And then my glucose continued to go up. My A1C topped out at 6.0, 6.1, somewhere in there. After, it was like 5.8 when I started. So I got my first CGM and I switched over and I did high fat, adequate protein. And I lost some, but it wasn't until I really started to look also at, which I started to look at like the grounding and the circadian, and I got circadian certified in 2021. That in conjunction with eating proper diet for me was how I ended up and got to this person on the right. I lost the weight, obviously. This is me in a small. So I went clothes shopping. I hate clothes shopping. And this is why Sherry wanted to talk about this tonight, was because as I'm trying these on, the reason I took pictures was to send to her, because we don't always see the person in the mirror that is looking back at us. So I took the pictures and I sent them to Sherry, and I'm like, what do you think? And because I have a conference coming up. So if it was me, I would have been like, no. But yeah, so I still, like I said, and this is 5 years now, since changing how I was eating, what I am doing, realigning, circadian rhythm. I have more energy than I did in this before picture. I was always, exhausted by the end of the day. I have more energy, more mental clarity. I'm able to focus, chase kids. Yeah, I mean, and it did kind of strike a chord with some in the fact of I did this by eating high fat. A lot of people will end up and say, you can't lose fat by eating fat. It worked for me. And I also, with all those issues that I was telling you about, I reversed them. My A1C was 4.8. I'm off of the levothyroxine. I'm off of, all SSRIs, beta blockers, inhalers. So the 7 pharmaceutical medications that I was on prior to starting, when I was that person on the left, is no longer. I no longer end up in need any of those medications. All because I look at nature. I look at, the sun. I'm going to go through. So I look at sunrise every morning. My non-negotiables. I get out. My feet are in the ground. Barefoot. I don't care what the temp is. I am barefoot and I am looking at the natural light. So that is and also my structured water. I set it out, solarize, structure it. That is my 3 non-negotiables for how my morning starts. And
what a beautiful picture.
Yeah, that's straight out my backyard. Ain't that God's country out here?
I love it. So when did you realize that sunrise, grounding, barefoot started working for you?
Well, within the first 6 months, because I was able to see it within my lab work. I had been doing lab work on my own. I go through a company called Let's Get Checked. I have been doing my lab work over the years because that was one of the things with my physician at the time, was in order to come off of the medications, I still had to get labs. Well, of course, if I went through the doctor's office, I the insurance I had would cause me to pay it out of pocket. So I did it through a different company that I could actually get it cheaper and not have to pay the office visit and all of that. And within the first 6 months of taking, from when I started, 6 months later, I could end up and see my thyroid levels were all optimal. My antibodies had ended up and went back to normal when before they were, well over what they should have been. And yeah, so within that first 6 months of really being consistent with the high fat carnivore, I did end up reintroducing during that period as well. So I was high fat carnivore. I started to reintroduce, and even within that time, things were still progressing, but I did it on a seasonal approach.
And if it sounds like Becky's talking a foreign language, it is different, right? It's not something that, we've been taught, we've been told the explanation as to the whys. You know, Becky posts, I mean, she'll stand out there like this in the snow, and usually a tank top. And and people wonder why are you doing this? Well, because she gets so many questions, we are offering in the BNC community coming up a circadian rhythm masterclass. And so I'll let you kind of go into a little detail on that, little teaser. How's that for what this masterclass is going to entail?
Yes. So our circadian rhythm, a lot of our hormones, a lot of our gut health, our body just in general runs circadian. So I do get into some of the science in regards of why we should end up, timing a light, that type of thing. What not to do to end up, allowing our body proper hormonal signaling too. So, using the right type of light at certain times of the day, just really overall the health that comes with circadian aspect. And yes, as far as wintertime goes, that's when I end up and I look also at the infradian system. So things are going to start changing. We're moving into fall and winter, and use nature and acclimate to nature as much as what you can, so that when you are transitioning into wintertime, it's nature's cold therapy. But, you're not going to end up and go stand in the snow when you're not acclimated to it. You're not going to typically be the person that's going to end up and go out barefoot in a tank top and be able to, expose yourself safely. And that's what I end up and I teach is how to end up and do it and how to incorporate some of these things, what, the plan is as far as incorporating them to optimize your day. And sorry, I was just reading the comment in the chat, but how we can end up and optimize our whole day, right? And that's one of the things that the BNC does too, is the way that we look at it, not only at nutrition, but the other aspects of our life, even beyond the circadian. But yes, the circadian, I will go into hormones, the science, as well as the light and what types of light and why it matters.
And even why I'm wearing something like this, right? So that's important too. Well, did you see the question in the chat?
I did. It says, I've been contemplating a CGM. I have been getting postprandial fatigue. Would you recommend I get a CGM or test my blood insulin levels? So I think CGMs can be very insightful for multiple things. But as far as, and I can answer this because I know who the poster is. But there's also, I would look at how your body is responding. Now, you don't necessarily need to invest in the CGM. You can just do a meal response, but also how is your body going into the meal? Are you making sure that you are in that parasympathetic state? Doing a few deep breaths before you eat. There's a few things around meal eating that you can end up and do to try and help with that postprandial, only because glucose or the CGMs tend to end up and be expensive. So you're looking at, unless you can get it from your physician, you're looking at anywhere about $150, $200 a month on a CGM subscription. They do occasionally have the one-off also, but
Yep.
yeah.
I use a CGM. In fact, mine expired because I have to change mine out every 10 days. So it was time to put a new one on. And what I have found is if I wait till the next day to put it on, um, I I look at my numbers all the time. So if you are that kind of person like me, the little breaks that I take in between the time I put them on is kind of helps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Becky knows how much I obsess with.
Which part of that can end up and be the stress for many. Obviously over this time frame, I am the data nerd. Like I said, I've used CGM, I've used the Oura Ring, Fitbit, about any other gadget you can end up and think of. But it doesn't stress me. I track my food, I track my macros, to really kind of listen. And I notice even intuitively, I gravitate towards the fat. And I meant to end up and grab my genetic testing that I did through 23andMe, and it said that I was a better metabolizer of fat and a slower metabolizer of protein, which I found very interesting. So I did this well after I had even started this, but I found it very interesting that it come back as that. So I'm like, oh, how fitting. But the other thing that we also end up and do is, lift heavy things and interact with nature, right? So on the high fat, adequate protein side of things, people always say, oh, you're going to end up and lose muscle mass. You're going to lose, you're not going to be able to, have that lean muscle mass. And for me, it has not changed. Now, obviously you can end up and see the deer word during the winter time. So obviously that's a picture from last winter, late season, when I ended up getting my doe. But yeah, so I personally, I can only speak from my experience and my client's experience, but we have not seen muscle loss. I have seen several clients have great success on the way of coaching, whether it's the BNC community clients or my coaching clients. So it's definitely a option.
So diving in a little deeper with this higher fat, adequate protein that you talked about, what made you switch to having a higher fat in your diet? I mean, you said you were carnivore. So, kind of take us through that scenario, how you arrived at that.
So when I first went keto, I didn't bring my book up here. When I first went keto, I had a book and it was Ketogenic Diets for Therapeutic Practices. It went through all the different ratios. Obviously, ketosis was used for epileptic therapies primarily in children. But the book that I have also has other therapeutic practices that it is good for. So when I went keto, I did the high fat or low carb, high fat, moderate protein. I knew what my glucose could run during that. But then when I went, that's how I knew when it started to run, 180, 200 and climb. so I had standard American. That's when my A1C started to climb, upper fives. And then I ended up and went keto. I knew how it could run when I was whole food. And then, like I said, I kind of slipped, in there with Keto Fi products. And then here, I can end up remove that. And then I ended up and stumbled upon Dr. Sean Baker, and I just went carnivore, right? He was eating a bunch of steaks, not really looking into, the whole carnivore side of things. I'm a Nebraska girl, right? We get a whole beef processed every year. And so I just started grabbing steaks out of the freezer and cooking them, and my A1C started to climb, and my glucose, was climbing, especially in the mornings, which, yes, part of that was also the cortisol aspect and eating too late, and, a lot of circadian things that I already talk about, of shifting the meal, earlier in the day, not eating, within so many hours of going to bed, those type of things. But when I ended up and I first went, it started to climb. I had the CGM. I then switched back because I'm like, if something's not broke, why change it, right? So I switched back. I started adding the fat in, and that's where, for anyone that is following us on YouTube and started following this channel way back several years ago, that's the videos that you end up and you see me cutting up the suet, you see me making the beef crack, you see me making the whipped tallow sticks, the high fat carnivore waffles. I mean, some of those videos are, several years old. I mean, we're talking 2-3 years old. And so it was when I started doing that. And yeah, I kind of felt like a Lone Ranger out there because everyone was always, speaking to the protein side, but not a lot of people were speaking to how fat could end up and benefit. And I stuck with it. My meals looked a little bit different than everyone else's. And then in 2019, 2020, Sean and I actually did a experiment because I still had CGM on. I wore a CGM for like a year and a half. But Sean Baker and I did a, N=1 experiment where we tried even the different sources of fat and what it did. Now, he was referencing a study that was done in regards of desugarization and insulin and all of that. But what we essentially did was kept my protein the same, and we adjusted the fat and the type of fat. So we had, certain macro that I was hitting with beef fat, and then we did pork fat, and then we did it, isolated. So it was like, a day break, a day, a break, So then we did beef fat, we did pork fat, we did dairy. And then we ended up and increased it to surplus. So, like 300 gram plus on fat, which I'm not going to lie, was very hard. It was a lot of fat. But essentially what it ended up and did was drive my glucose down low, and it brought my ketones up. I do have some of those still shared in my on my Instagram page, but I mean, we're talking, had I not been well fat adapted at that point, it would have been hypoglycemic numbers for many individuals. But because I was able to produce the ketones, my body liked the ketones. I was not symptomatic to having the glucose that low, and actually, was speaking in perfectly fine, working. I was never lightheaded, fatigued, blacking out, anything like that. So,
and you found a happy medium somewhere along all those experiments, right?
Yep. And that's what I end up and I do. And that's also why I started doing fat fast, because I knew I could, thrive, as well as other people that I kind of took, my beta group, if you will, kind of took them through the test of a fat fast, how they would feel, and kind of, and then I come out with the 2.0 fat fast this last end of August. And we had several BNC members, we had several members go through that. And we still actually are doing the follow-up Q&As through the end of September, but we're seeing great success with it. I mean, we have a diabetic that is working with her physician that has lowered her insulin. So she was on 8 to 9 units of insulin, and she's now down to 1 to 2. Again, not because of us, but her physician is working closely with her to end up and decrease those. We have a client that is down, and it's not always about weight, but a client that has been doing the fat fast and is down 16 pounds just since adjusting things. We have a client that is stopped losing hair. That's one of the things that I hear of people as well, as when they start shifting things around, is that they start to lose their hair. A gal sent me a question or a comment that she was having more energy. So yeah, we're definitely having success with not only the fat fasting, but more of the adequate protein and higher fat.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know personally it has worked wonders for me. And I'm still, we're still kind of, Becky and I are still trying to find my sweet spot. But definitely, I feel better. My head is clear. I mean, for the longest time, I was on carnivore. I mean, I've been basically carnivore since the middle of May. And not until, let's see, how long have I been increasing the fats now? month and a half?
I was going to say about 6 weeks. So
Oh, 6 weeks. Yeah. So, I mean, before I modified, the fat ratio up more and brought the protein down to adequate, I was exhausted. And it was, well, are you doing electrolytes? Yes, I am. Are you, am I going out and getting the morning, the
grounding.
UVA and the UVB rays, right? I mean, am I wearing the blue blocker glasses? Am I, how am I sleeping? Like we were going through all these steps. And it's like, but I'm doing all those. And the piece that needed adjusted was that higher fat that I needed to get. I'm telling you, almost as soon as I started doing that, I no longer was tired in the afternoons. And my mental clarity has just been phenomenal. And I'm still doing that exact same stuff. I'm still the blue blocker glasses, the getting my morning sunrise and grounding. Now I have to ground a little different than a lot of people because I'm still working on reversing my type 2 diabetes. My body has let us know loud and clear that it cannot handle these 100-degree plus temperatures that we are experiencing here in Texas. So I've had to find other ways of doing that. And one of the things that I've done is I started, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I started wearing the grounding patches. And when I sit and work during the day, I'm plugged in, for lack of a better word, right? But I'm grounding. So I had to find an alternate way. And once the temperatures start lowering, then I can start going outside a lot more like I did pre the 100-degree heat, where I would go out and on my lunch and I would ground for, 20 minutes. And it's funny, Becky, I was going to tell you this. From doing all that before summer into summer, this is the first year that I have never burnt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you want to explain why I experience that. I know, but I'm going to let you, because this will kind of tie into everything we do.
Well, and a lot of that is eliminating the toxic seed oils. So when we end up, when we put, healthier nutrition in and a healthier fat and cholesterol that will end up and be made into, our hormonal cascade, if you will. But also the other aspect is the circadian side of things. So when you end up and you expose your eyes to natural sunlight first thing in the morning, and then the UVA, that primes the skin, if you will. That gets it ready for the UVB, which is the vitamin D window, right? So that's where we end up when we make vitamin D. It allows the body to prep that skin so that you are able to end up and be out there. Now, obviously, I'm not saying you can end up, spend all day and maybe not get red, but you, especially, in the Texas heat, my goodness, you guys have had quite the heat down there. But there's also apps out there that you can end up and use to know safe sun exposure. So with the use of that, with the use of, proper nutrition and proper timing and getting it in chronological order, your body has a better ability to know what is coming and sense what is coming, because not only are you getting it through the eyes, but you're getting it through those receptors in the skin. So yeah, and again, that is a lot of things that are taught within the circadian masterclass too.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. And then we also do have the fat fasting masterclass as well, which if you join the BNC community and message us, we can get you access to that as well. And that's an add-on, of course. Oh, looks like she's got a child coming in there to talk to her. Yes, I've seen your eyes turn. Or the husband.
It was the kiddos.
The kiddos. There you go. Yeah. See, we're real life. This is like, I've just shut the door because my husband's out there watching TV loud. He wears hearing aids, so his volume is definitely. But yeah. So going back to those pictures, I'm going to make you bring them back up from this weekend, the before or your before and after, and that one.
That one?
What do you see? This is always interesting.
A healthier version, because I do end up and see that, right? Even though I may not see it every day, I do see a healthier person. Am I where, ideally my mind thinks I should be? No. We still pick the negatives out, right? We still pick those flaws. But it is a better version of myself. It is a happier version of myself. It is a better mom, wife, especially since today was Daughter's Day.
Yeah.
But, it's just knowing your why, knowing, why I had to do this. Obviously, I have my 4 kids. I have kids that I look after. So really being able to be there for them and being that best version of myself and be that role model for others. And my only wish of when I put this out wasn't necessarily, for the kudos or the congrats or anything like that. It was more for I want to help people, and I want to end up and inspire them and empower them that they can become the better version of themselves, and that it can be done. It does take a little bit of consistency, but if you can end up and be consistent and go after it, it can be done. And we are there to help them.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw you under the bus. She loves when I do this. But this weekend was, you had a celebration.
Yes.
And let's talk about what you chose to eat
Mhm.
and the reasons behind it, how you handled it, and how you feel about it. Because this is life.
This is life. And that's the other reason. So on my Instagram, I've always said I will not eat if I will not eat something if I don't feel like I can post it. I don't always, especially on the weekends, life gets busy and I don't always get everything, posted, and I feel not everyone wants to see, the ins and outs, right, of
Yeah.
my life. But one of the things that I will be is fully transparent. And the transparency come out this weekend. It was my mother's 78th birthday. And one of the things she said was, I want you guys to come over, spend some time, because she had to work this weekend. Yes, she's 78 years old and is still working. Which is where I get my work ethic, right? Love her dearly. But she said, I want you to come over. And I said, well, Mom, what do you want for your birthday? You have to work. We won't be able to go out. Usually I'll take her out for a meal. Um, and she said, oh, we'll just have cake and ice cream before I go to work. Well, it was my mother's 78th birthday and I ate the damn cake and ice cream. And I had it with her. We took pictures. We had a wonderful afternoon before she went to work. And before I had to get kiddos back for school things. But I didn't have any negative effect to it. And I think that definitely ends up and makes a difference where I am more metabolically healthy, right? I am able to
Mhm.
end up and have, it's not like, trust me, it's not like I want, even the day after to go nose deep in, the container of ice cream or the piece of cake. Yes, I still have it in my house, but it wasn't even tempting. And it was actually very rich too. Um, when I did have it, but it was my mother's birthday. She's 78. How many more birthdays will I get with her? I'm not really guaranteed that. So I enjoyed her birthday with her the way that she wanted to end up and celebrate it. And like I said, even though it wasn't necessarily ideal in my opinion, not something I would end up and recommend to do all the time, or for someone even, fresh out of addiction to end up and do, because
No.
it can be a slippery slope. But I have been consistent with working on myself, working on my mindset around food, how, my whole day in, day out, how I, do things. I was able to end up and handle that situation, knowing full well going into it what it was going to look like and coming out of it on the other side. And I've been perfectly fine. And actually, I was even able to, Mondays are normally a fat fast day for me, and I was able to roll right into it, and not have any breakthrough cravings or, hunger or gut pain or anything negative from that. And that is honestly where, when we look at, addiction, and obviously our coach Sly can speak to addiction a lot better than what I can, because she hosts the mental health and addiction meeting. But um, addictions normally have a negative consequence. And this isolated situation, because like I said, it's not something that's going to end up and happen every weekend or, every day or anything like that. But this isolated situation, it didn't lead to any negative consequence. So yes, I posted it, and I posted that it was my mom's birthday and I had the piece of cake.
Yes. Now, and we talked about that though. We
Yeah.
talked about that earlier today. And I, my, I could, okay, I choose not to have a piece of cake and ice cream or whatever it is because metabolically I'm not there. So,
Mhm.
what all that would do for me is to increase my blood sugar to parts unknown, right? Like it would jack it all up. And I know that. And I choose to abstain.
Yeah.
Um, but I've abstained long enough that I can be around it. We have it in the house too. My husband has ice cream in the freezer. In fact, he's like, pick me up some this weekend. I'm like, so I picked him up some at the grocery store. Um, he was eating some before we started our live. I walked by and he was eating ice cream. I have no desire for that.
Mm.
I've had little bites here and there, and I'll be honest with you, it's pretty disheartening because it's not, it doesn't taste as good as what um, I remember it to be,
Mhm.
right? But those are the differences. You're in a different place than I am. Um, I choose to look at my journey as life and death at this point.
Yeah.
I have to heal. I have to reverse my type 2 diabetes, and I have to continue down this path. The only other choice I have is to quit and go right back to how I was before, and they'll just start stockpiling. I mean, I'm off my meds,
Yeah.
and they'll just increase them. They'll just add and add and add and add, and it to me that's life and death. And when you look at it that way, it puts a different spin on it.
Well, and I do. I think 4 years ago, would I have done it and been able, to have the same results? Absolutely not. Would I have been able, when I was pre-diabetic and had all the issues? No, I did not have the metabolic flexibility that I have now to be able to end up and be, a glucose burner and then flip right back over and be a, ketone fat burner. So no, I agree with you. Different places, and that's why I say, this is my personalized individual journey. And it's what works for me, right? I'm at that point now where the occasional time, or even during the summertime, being a little bit more abundant with food sources, and not needing to be strict carnivore, just because, like I said, where I'm at and the lighting, the sun, circadian rhythm, that whole aspect. um yeah, I think it's definitely a different place for everyone. And that's where a blanket statement or a blanket approach, um, a one size fits all, doesn't necessarily work for everyone.
Well, and that's it. And I think we're seeing that out there um, on social media. Is this one way you have to have so much protein, 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 and they hammer that a lot of influencers and things like that. I think what you and I see, Becky, is the people that are desperate, that doesn't work for them, I should say.
Hmm.
And they're starting down this kind of, I don't know, desperate's the right word, or if it's, you know, but they're rebound, like it's not working for them, and they're searching and they're trying to figure this out. And it just, I know both of our hearts are in this, that we feel for them, but what do you say to that person?
Really providing them with hope, right? Because I too had gone down many paths of, yo-yoing and Weight Watchers. I mean, calorie in, calorie out. There is hope and there is support, right? It is a journey where you feel lost. It's an overwhelming sense of information that is just, you feel lost. You feel like you're alone. You feel like no one ends up and understands. And that's really why I guess we share our journey, we share our path, is because we are just real people, and making it relatable, so that people can end up, like I said, are we where we want to be? Absolutely not. We're both working on certain aspects, but are we a better version? And can we, it always reminds me of that person on, the stairs that is reaching down to help pull the next person up, right? And that's where we are, is making this community affordable to the point where we can reach down and help those that truly end up and need help, and they don't have to do it alone. That we will support them, we will guide them, and we have a whole community of coaches, um, to help them on various aspects.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key is there is hope. Don't give up. Don't, I started like you started, I Googled
Yeah.
keto, right? I was eating, oh, look, I can have this salad dressing. And, it's like, uh, because it said keto on it. I mean, that, oh, this is a keto chip. I can have
Yep.
a keto chip. And it went from there, but I kept on. I started walking. I started, just because again, I was, I was 8 my A1C was 8.2
Mhm.
when I started, and they were wanting to put me on a third medicine. And it was like, I can't. Something has to work because everything else never worked. And listening to what the American Diabetes Association says to eat was actually making me sicker and worse. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to insert that into
Mhm.
whatever it is that they're wanting to heal from. Um, the mainstream I could get on a soapbox here. I have to be careful. Just pay attention to the sources. Who's sponsoring the the studies? What influencer is telling you this, and then what is their product? Um, y- you can start kind of following the trail of things like that. Those are definitely things we can help navigate as well in the BNC community. But yeah, I mean, Becky, this picture is just phenomenal, and I hope you keep that shirt.
I have. Yeah, it continues to go in my closet, and I continue to, pull it out occasionally and use it. I mean, even just, the arms, you can see how it fits
Yeah,
so much differently. And yeah, it definitely ends up. And to really end up and provide them with hope of joining the community, we still do have the BNC code. So you can use code BNC to save 50% off. That puts it less than $20 a month. It puts it at, $18 a month. If you are someone, right now that is doing like DoorDash, just drop one of the DoorDashes. If you are someone that's doing, um, Starbucks, that's nowadays that's pretty much a latte, but essentially it's like 60 cents a day, right?
yeah,
So really it's pennies when it comes to our health. And like I said, all that we offer within the community, we have 10 meetings per week. 2 breath work, we've got wellness, we've got a nutrition meeting, we've got mental health, we've got mindset meeting. So we cover basically the whole body from head to toe. I do the intuitive step aromatherapy because you'll see up over my shoulder. I also do essential oils and have for several years. So yeah, we definitely end up and want to provide you with hope and support.
so don't think you're alone. Please reach out to us. Please join. um, we can come alongside of you. We have a community. Everyone cheers everyone on. We have accountability. And a lot of times that's the thing you need. But Becky, thank you so much for putting yourself out there after I told her she had to today.
She did. That was kind of last minute, but I do think that it is important when it comes to helping other people, right? And that's the other thing. Take the progress pictures because you don't always end up at C it. If you are solely stepping on a scale, you may not end up at C much change. So taking the pictures, taking the measurements, and know that there are people out there that are willing to help and, you know, walk the journey with you. Because we don't just preach a lifestyle and then let you go on your way. We end up when we walk the walk with you.
And we're walking the walk right alongside of you. We just may be at step, well, that's what Spy said in her meeting last week. You know, I might be on step 4, but I can certainly help people step 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like, you know, we can walk this journey together. And I think that's what makes us so valuable, is none of us are pretending to be the complete and total experts here. So plenty of coaches to choose from, you know, again, and and I'll add to your aromatherapy. The first time, you guys, full disclosure, Becky's never heard this. She'll start laughing. But I thought, she's going to try and sell me some essential oils. Like, I just know that's what this is going to be. And it wasn't. And that's what it was like who knew that this essential oil is for this and this? She isn't saying, hey, you got to buy these right here, you know, over her shoulder. None of that. It's just information about another piece to heal the body.
Yeah.
And again, that's why we titled this Healing the Whole Body. So, but yeah, it was funny because I remember for the longest time, you know, I was like, I don't want to buy her oils.
Yeah, absolutely. But awesome, everyone. Hopefully you had a lovely night, or you have a lovely night, my dear co-host.
You too.
All right. And everyone, make sure you follow us. We go live every Monday.
Every Monday.
Awesome. Have a wonderful